What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining me on these analysis. We're going to be looking at MSTR and Bitcoin today with a couple different charts and indicators. Holding underneath our key level right here, this upward sloping trend line. And then on top of that, we have actually fallen back inside of this range to the downside, where you see this downward sloping trend line. We've fallen underneath there. So now we have additional confluence to the downside. So we have this downward sloping trend line. We have this upward sloping trend line. And now we're getting sandwiched between this downward sloping trend line and compressed between this key support zone. It is the smaller or more minor level out of these three zones that I have drawn out, but it is still an important level that has been established from April 21st, 2025. So it is very important. You can see we are getting a little bit of a bounce off of it, but we are back underneath this trend line. So now that we're within this trend line, it's going to open up the idea of us continuing this trend down if we were to break this horizontal structure. Now, if we were to break this structure and come back to a retest here, that's going to definitely be confluence to the downside. So we'll see where it takes us, but that's something to take note of and look out for. We're also going to be looking here on the weekly to see where we end up closing. Ideally, we'd like to see a close minimum back at 380 or so we could close outside of this downward sloping trend line, because at least if we close outside of it, then we could potentially retest off of this trend line and start to bounce and start playing with this upward sloping trend line up here. But if we start closing back inside of here, then the targets will start to look lower and lower. And then when you look on a smaller time frame, if we were to break the structure here and surpass 354, then that's going to open up a potential quick move, potentially to that 325 area. So we'll see where it takes us. But if we were to get a close back underneath the structure and some kind of retest, and once we get that continuation of a move, that could definitely make it down to the structure here at that 325 mark. When you look at the weekly, you can see it's actually a pretty clean move. If we were to fall underneath here, it should be a clean move to 325 to around 312. Just looking at the weekly for MSTR. Now on the weekly SMA, we are at our 20 right now, and we definitely want to hold that. We're slightly underneath it. It's sitting around 376 or so. We're sitting at 372.94. So now that we've closed underneath it on the daily, at least, it could potentially retest. If we were to close underneath it on the weekly, then that's going to open up the idea of us potentially retesting and continuing the move down further. And like I said, if we do lose 355 and we get a solid close, that's going to open up the idea of us falling all the way down to this 50 moving average, which is sitting at that 326 mark. Which will be in confluence with this key level of support. So maybe that's where we'll find a bounce, at least temporarily, if we were to fall down there. Of course, nothing has to happen. And on the daily, it's not looking the best, as the 20 is about to break underneath the 50, and that could potentially signal lower prices, at least short term. We do have the 200-day sitting right under that 355 mark, so hopefully that could be a key level of support that can help support price, at least temporarily, to slow down any kind of move to the downside. On the weekly Bollinger Band, if we do close underneath the blue band, it's also going to open up the odds of us bouncing off of that and continuing down to that green band, the bottom band. And on the daily, we're actually pretty much oversold. When you look here on the Bollinger Bands on the daily, we've actually just wicked off the bottom. So hopefully we can actually get a move up to the blue band. So this is actually a nice sign to see. So here, what we would love to see is a double bottom form, and we get that second bottom right here off of that moving average. The Bollinger Band and this key level of support, and then we can at least make it back to the blue band and hopefully surpass that and get back inside of this upward sloping trend line. That's where we want to be. We don't want to be playing underneath that trend line. We are now playing underneath our 8-week EMA. So if we hold this close here, I would expect some kind of retest and potentially a move down further unless we can completely flip the momentum. But if the continuation of that momentum continues, then we could potentially see lower levels. We do have a gap to fill here at 383 to around 381, this little area right here. So we'll see if we can push up to the 8-day moving average, the EMA, and see if we can retest off of that. Hopefully we can break through it and get a close. If not, if we continue this momentum to the downside, then I would expect a wick and potentially fall back inside of this downward sloping trend line. When you take a look here at Bitcoin, you can see that we got absolutely rejected extremely hard. It was looking incredibly bullish, and we got a red engulfing candle to the downside. I thought it was very bullish once we got this close above this wick here at around 123 or so. Getting that close was really a good sign, and we wiped out the entire move from the past 2 days. And one candle just absolutely wiped it out. And now we're sitting back underneath. And that's why I was saying we want to get a weekly close for a retest to continue to move higher, which we've seen here, and it actually failed. And this time it looks like we actually closed on the daily, very bullish, and then we still pushed back in and failed to the downside. It looks like it was a fake out. And now that we're back underneath this trend line, we'll see. Of course, we'll wait for the weekly. But if we hold a weekly close back here, it's going to be right back to the same position that we were previously in, which is bouncing off of this trend line and looking for potential lower prices or some kind of sideways action. In all reality, nothing has changed because this was just a fake out, and now we're back in the same range. It was looking pretty solid, and I don't think it's bad in any kind of way either. I don't think it's terrible because we're still holding a pretty solid uptrend. If you were to hold it like this, then you could say that we fell underneath it and we might retest to push down further. But if you were to draw it, I guess, like this, then we still might be holding it. It all depends on how you draw it. So there's always different ways of drawing these charts and lines and everything. But overall, the sentiment's still neutral, and Bitcoin's still almost at all-time highs. So I don't think anything has really changed. And like I previously said, we've seen a top at 95, another top at around 90 for the RSI. And if you were to draw that out in a downward sloping trend line, you can see that we'd probably be sitting anywhere from like 84, 85 to like 83 for that RSI top potentially. And that would create a solid downtrend, and then potentially a little bit lower in the following cycle, and so on, as Bitcoin stabilizes and more capital flows into the asset. But overall, I still think we have higher to go, and we're currently sitting at around 73. Total crypto market cap kind of stays in the same spot right now. We're in the same camp that we were already in, which is we have a move up, sideways action, move up, sideways action, and potentially a move up higher. We'll see how much higher it goes. If we were to continue this trend, which involves touching the top of this trend line, then that would put us all the way at a 12 to 14 trillion dollar market cap. I don't know if we'll do that because we're only sitting at 4 trillion right now. That would be a very exponential move to the upside. So we'll see where it takes us. But if that were to happen, then that means we're very early in this move. If not, then potentially in the next cycle. It's just going to take a lot of capital for that to happen. Now that, these market caps are increasing little by little, day by day. When you look at ETH and Bitcoin, they're all just becoming monsters in terms of market caps. So it's going to be harder to move these things. Tether dominance looked like it faked us out as well. Of course, because Bitcoin dropped. So it was looking incredibly bearish. And we got a solid green candle that pushed all the way up. Now, the trend is still solidly to the downside. And honestly, it looks like that could have just been a retest of this key zone for a continuation to the downside. We'll see. I'll pull a fib here on this most recent leg, and we'll see where we're at. So we fell slightly underneath the 0.5, and now we're sitting at the 382. So we'll see if this can be a continuation to the downside, which would be very bullish for Bitcoin. And when we look at Bitcoin dominance, we can see that this thing is still falling, and we've fallen underneath this white line that we drew out. And I was saying if we can get a close underneath there, that would increase the odds of us falling to this next level, which would sit around this 57 mark. That would be a pretty significant move for altcoins to start outperforming Bitcoin. But overall, we would need a larger move to the downside if we really want to see altcoin season happen. We would need to see pretty much a repeat of what we've already seen prior, which would look similar to these moves over here. I don't know when and if this is going to happen, and I do think if it happens, it'll be relatively quick, be much quicker than you anticipate, because when you zoom in, you take a look here, from the start of this move, from this initial red candle, it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 months, and you're already at the 45 mark, which is pretty much signaling that the top for the cycle could be in. And then for this one here, it depends on where you take it from, but if you're off of this move, it was 2 candles, and if you start from this red candle over here, you had 1, 2, 3, 4, then you had a little pullback, 5, 6, 7, and then 8 months. If we were to have it at 5 months from this candle, then that would put us at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 would be November, and then 6, 7, 8 would be February. If we were to just kind of like play it in between, we just say 6 or 7, you're looking at, that December, maybe January area is when we could potentially touch this if altcoin season actually does play out, where altcoins are starting to outperform Bitcoin. But we need the capital to flow Bitcoin to Ether and Solana and all the larger market cap crypto into the smaller ones. And this will show that continuation. And here on ETH Bitcoin, you can kind of see that we had this incredible downtrend for a very long time, and now we're absolutely ripping to the upside. And the bearish moves are starting to be flipped. So we have this golden zone here off of this smaller leg, and we bounced off of it, use it as support, and we just surpassed our last line in the sand, the 886. So it's pretty much, once it hits the 1, this bearish move is completely out of the door, and now we have to worry about this bearish leg to the downside. Depends if you want to take it from there or there. Either way, it's going to be relatively the same. We are currently at the 0.5 to the 618, which is our next golden zone on the larger leg. And if we can do a repeat of this move and we close above, retest outside of this trend line, then that could really get things going and ETH can really start to outperform Bitcoin. So we'll see where it takes us. But right now it's looking pretty solid for ETH. ETH has been rallying pretty hard. We'll see if the trend can continue. And we are running into the 20-month SMA, which is going to be a key level that we have to break and hold on ETH divided by Bitcoin. That's going to be a very strong level to break, as you have a golden zone with this downward sloping trend line and the 20-month. So that's a lot of confidence to the downside. But we do have some pretty solid support with the 50-week, the 20-week, and the 200 is sitting up here at around 0.34. So those are kind of the levels that I would be watching for in terms of ETH Bitcoin and just crypto market in general. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Drop a like and subscribe. I enjoy all your support, and I'll see you guys in the next one.